In women's sport, performance isn't always enough. Athletes are expected to be marketable as well as elite.
This picture just shows me how strong I am and how hard I've worked.
From Serena Williams gracing Vogue to Alex Morgan's viral tea-sipping celebration, female athletes are increasingly celebrated for their image as much as their achievements.
My message stays the same. Strong is beautiful, strong's powerful. It's sexy, it's whatever you want it to be, and I hope more girls can feel how I feel.
These women are strong, successful, and culturally influential, but their visibility often hinges on looking a certain way. Media coverage focuses on their looks, their outfits, their expressions. If they don't fit a narrow ideal, slim, symmetrical, smiling, they risk being overlooked, ridiculed, or sexualized. Even someone as dominant as Serena Williams faced years of commentary focused more on her body than her titles. This pressure to meet beauty standards doesn't just affect how women are portrayed. It determines which stories get told, who gets sponsorships, and how young athletes see themselves. Success isn't just earned through performance, it's filtered through appearance. The athletes who rise to prominence often have something in common. They fit society's beauty standards. Caitlin Clark, Maria Sharapova, and Paige Spiranak became household names early, not just for their talent, but because they were seen as brand-friendly, blonde, slim, conventionally attractive. Their visibility wasn't just about sporting achievement, it was about how well they could sell a product.
I really love just looking at a watch and being inspired for my whole outfit. What I'm most excited about my partnership with Tag Heuer is just building together.
Meanwhile, athletes like Serena Williams and Simone Biles, arguably two of the most dominant competitors in their sports, have faced backlash that had nothing to do with performance. Serena was called too masculine throughout her career. Simone was criticized for protecting her mental health at the Olympics. Despite being generational talents, both had to fight to be accepted on their own terms. So, who decides what brand-friendly looks like? In many cases, it's men, executives at agencies, brands, broadcasters, and sports federations, shaping a commercial image of femininity that aligns with mainstream ideals. It's a filtered version of womanhood that's easier to sell and less likely to challenge the status quo. And yes, race plays a role. Studies have shown that Black female athletes receive less media coverage overall, and when they do, it's often more critical or focused on their bodies rather than their achievements. The further a woman diverges from the white, slim, hyper-feminine ideal, the more likely she is to be policed, not promoted. Some of the women most celebrated in sponsorship deals haven't necessarily achieved more in their sport. They've just fit the image more cleanly. That's not a critique of those women. It's a critique of a system where beauty can be more bankable than brilliance, and where visibility is still dictated by a narrow lens of desirability. Because in women's sport, the spotlight is never just about talent. It's about packaging. And that's the thing. When visibility is dictated by image, it doesn't stop at who gets the brand deals. It extends to what athletes are forced to wear. Because in many women's sports, the uniforms aren't designed to respect the athlete. They're designed to please the audience. From tennis skirts to bikini bottoms, women's kits often prioritize appearance over performance. The Norwegian beach handball team was fined for wearing fitted shorts instead of bikini bottoms.
I mean, it is just sexist, isn't it? I mean, it is just the idea that women on a beach are expected to wear as little as possible. And you look at the men, I mean, they're wearing quite baggy t-shirts and reasonably, sort of just normal shorts.
Germany's Olympic gymnasts chose full-length suits to push back against the hypersexualization of their sport. Serena Williams wore a compression catsuit for medical reasons, and it was banned.
Serena Williams will have to ditch her skin-tight catsuit when she plays at the French Open. The outfit that she wore earlier this summer will not pass the new dress code.
In each case, the message was clear. Comfort and function come second to image. These dress codes are rarely challenged from within because they're baked into tradition, and tradition has rarely prioritized the female athlete's voice. In contrast, men's kits are designed almost entirely around performance. They're built for movement, airflow, recovery. No one's asking male sprinters to show more skin. No one finds a footballer for wearing longer shorts. The double standard is clear, and athletes are speaking out. From Simone Biles to Allyson Felix, many women have voiced frustration with outdated dress codes and the pressure to present a certain way. Some younger athletes feel conflicted, torn between wanting sponsorship opportunities and feeling objectified by the uniforms they're given. So, what do the brands say? Companies like Nike and Adidas have made moves to offer more inclusive designs, full coverage options, modest kits, hijab-friendly sportswear, but the progress is uneven. For every innovation, there's a photo shoot, campaign, or kit launch that still plays into the old visual tropes. Skin, symmetry, sex appeal. These uniforms don't just affect how athletes play, they shape how they're perceived and how much ownership they feel over their own image. Because when your outfit is designed for the viewer, not the performer, you're no longer just an athlete. You're part of someone else's presentation. Female athletes are often expected to stay silent, not just about mistreatment, but about pain, pressure, and even basic dissatisfaction. Not to protect themselves, but to protect the sport, the sponsors, and the reputations of those in charge. Take the Larry Nassar scandal. For years, Nassar was the team doctor for USA Gymnastics. Behind closed doors, he repeatedly violated athletes under the guise of medical treatment. Simone Biles, Allie Raceman, Michaela Maroney, and hundreds of others eventually came forward. But long before the public listened, many had already reported him and were ignored, dismissed, or told to stay quiet for the good of the team. This wasn't just about one individual. It exposed a culture where winning medals mattered more than protecting young women. A culture where coaches and officials chose silence. But this isn't unique to gymnastics. In track and field, Mary Cain spoke out about being pushed to dangerous limits by a Nike training program, saying it damaged both her body and her mind.
I was emotionally and physically abused by a system designed by Alberto and endorsed by Nike.
In football, players and referees have spoken about discrimination and mistreatment, often brushed off or quietly suppressed. In the WNBA, athletes have long highlighted unequal conditions, but only recently have some felt secure enough to say it out loud. The pattern is the same. If you challenge the system may shut you out. Athletes risk being labeled difficult, losing sponsorships, or being left off teams entirely. So silence becomes a survival tactic. And that silence doesn't just apply to serious misconduct. Many athletes are also told not to speak about unfair training conditions, unequal pay, burnout, mental health struggles, or even dissatisfaction with uniforms. They're told it makes the sport look bad, or worse, that it makes them look ungrateful. Still, some are starting to push back. Simone Biles stepped away from Olympic competition to protect her mental health. Naomi Osaka withdrew from media duties to prioritize her well-being. Mary Cain exposed the pressure to conform to unrealistic body standards in elite sport. Megan Rapinoe used her platform to speak out about pay inequality, discrimination, and control. But here's the thing. Most of these women could only speak once they were stars, because only when you're big enough to be uncancelable can you finally tell the truth. And even then, it takes courage. But each time one woman refuses to stay silent, it chips away at a system built on silence. In the early 1900s, teams like the Dick Kerr ladies regularly drew crowds of 50,000 or more. Their matches weren't just entertaining, they raised money for war recovery and often outperformed the men's leagues in both attendance and attention. But in 1921, something changed. The Football Association, entirely run by men at the time, banned women from playing on affiliated pitches. Their official reasoning? That football was unsuitable for females and posed health risks. The truth? Women's success had become a threat to the men's game. They were getting too popular, too powerful, too visible. And when women spoke up, they were ignored. Their teams were disbanded, their leagues erased, their stories quietly buried.
It was a prohibition by the FA saying that football was an inappropriate sport for women. So it was basically unfeminine.
The ban lasted for 50 years. Half a century of silence, not just in stadiums, but in history books. That silence had consequences. It set women's football back generations. No infrastructure, no investment, no visibility. And even when the ban was lifted, the damage had already been done. The men's game had become a global empire. The women's game had to start again from zero. But today, women are rewriting that story. The Lionesses' win at Euro 2022 sparked national pride. The 2023 Women's World Cup broke attendance records. Players like Sam Kerr, Alexia Putellas, and Chloe Kelly are household names. Grassroots programs are growing. Fans are showing up. The silence is being replaced with stadium noise, and for the first time in decades, the world is listening. But here's the catch. The pay gap remains staggering. The average female footballer in the UK Women's Super League earns between $25,000 and $40,000 a year. That's less than some male Premier League players make in a day. Even top international stars earn a fraction of their male counterparts' salaries and sponsorship deals. And that's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. Still, the strength of today's players goes beyond what happens on the pitch. They're advocating for equal pay, maternity rights, proper medical care, and better media coverage. They're using their voices in ways that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. Because this isn't just a rise, it's a return to a game that was once theirs and is now being reclaimed louder than ever. As women's football and other sports fight to be seen for what they are, skilled, competitive, and historic, there's another layer that still defines how women are seen in sport. Because when it comes to sponsorship, visibility, and endorsements, it's not always about the scoreboard. Sometimes it's about the mirror. Emma Raducanu became a global sensation overnight after her US Open win in 2021. She was just 18, hadn't yet played a full WTA season, and already had deals with Tiffany and Company, Dior, British Airways, Nike, and more. Her image, elegant, fresh-faced, and fashion-forward, fit what luxury brands wanted. Talent was the spark, but image carried the flame. Then there's Paige Spiranak, a former collegiate golfer who never played on the LPGA Tour, but who built a brand through stylized content, glam photo shoots, and golf-adjacent influencer videos. She now earns more than many top professionals through beauty and lifestyle partnerships. Meanwhile, players like Iga Swiatek, a multiple-time Grand Slam winner, or Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, one of the fastest women in history, get far less attention in fashion and beauty spaces, not because they're any less elite, but because they don't align as neatly with conventional marketing ideals. So what does that say? It says beauty, glamour, and presentation are often seen as more sellable than sustained excellence. It says that in women's sport, being branded as beautiful can be more profitable than being the best. And it raises some uncomfortable questions. Are these women being celebrated or commodified? For brands, athletes and beauty campaigns offer a unique mix, strong but soft, aspirational but relatable. But the relationship can be shallow. Once a story stops trending or performance dips, the sponsorships often fade. In many cases, female athletes are treated as seasonal faces, disposable, replaceable, quick-turn ambassadors whose value depends more on looks and likes than legacy. So how does the world respond? Some fans see these deals as empowering, proof that women in sport can dominate the field and the fashion world, but others criticize them, saying beauty campaigns distract from the real fight: equal pay, proper coverage, and athletic credibility. The criticism often comes harder and faster when the athlete is already seen as too pretty or when her performance starts to slip. And yes, there's a gender divide. When men sign endorsement deals, it's seen as success. When women do, it's often viewed with suspicion. Are they selling out? Are they serious athletes? Are they too focused on image? But here's the truth. These women aren't the problem. They're navigating a system that tells them their face is more valuable than their form, that their beauty is more bankable than their brilliance. They're playing two games, one on the field and one in the market, and only one of those rewards them for being themselves. Part 7, playing through the pain. But the pressure to perform doesn't stop at beauty campaigns. In fact, it gets worse when women decide to step back. Because in women's sport, you're not just expected to look good, you're expected to push through injury, through burnout, through everything. When Simone Biles withdrew from Olympic competition to protect her mental health, the backlash was immediate. Pundits called her weak, viewers questioned her commitment, sponsors held their breath. Never mind that she was dealing with the twisties, a dangerous loss of spatial awareness that could have led to serious injury. She made a decision to protect her body, and for that, she had to justify it to the world. Naomi Osaka skipped press conferences to prioritize her well-being and was fined. The story quickly shifted from empathy to outrage. She was no longer the quiet prodigy of tennis. Suddenly, she was painted as difficult, dramatic, unreliable. And it goes beyond mental health. ACL tears are rising rapidly in women's football, 4 to 6 times more common than in men. Research is still catching up, yet training regimens often don't adjust. When athletes get injured, they're often encouraged to play through it, because rest means risk, losing your spot, your contract, your sponsorship. And the longer you're out, the faster you're forgotten. Maternity introduces another layer. When Allison Felix, one of the most decorated track athletes in history, had a child, Nike offered her 70% less in her contract renewal. She fought back publicly, calling out the hypocrisy of brands that celebrated women's empowerment while punishing actual motherhood. Her story led to policy changes across major sports brands, but many athletes still fear announcing pregnancies. Some keep it secret until the last possible moment, because injury is seen as weakness, and so is motherhood. For brands, an athlete who can't compete becomes a liability, even if that absence is due to injury, mental health, or giving birth. The marketing value drops, the visibility fades, and the empowerment campaigns suddenly go quiet. Fans often mirror that sentiment. If a male athlete pulls out, it's tactical. If a woman does, it's emotional. The double standard runs deep. But here's what doesn't get said enough. Protecting your health isn't weak, it's brave. It's easy to play through pain when the world rewards you for suffering. It's harder to walk away knowing the consequences, the silence, the judgment, the lost deals. That's the pressure these women face, not just to win, but to endure, no matter the cost. But strength shouldn't be measured by how much you can take. It should be measured by when you know to stop. By now, we've seen the pattern. In women's sport, the pressure isn't just to win. It's to look right, act right, sell right, and stay silent when things go wrong. And in the digital age, those pressures only grow stronger. Because today, success isn't just measured in medals, it's measured in metrics. Followers, engagement, watch time. Athletes like Paige Spiranak have built global platforms through stylized, lifestyle-driven content. She's now the most followed golfer on Instagram, despite never competing at the top pro level. Meanwhile, world champions like Iga Swiatek, Simone Manuel, and Shelly Ann Fraser-Price have fewer followers, fewer headlines, and fewer brand deals. Not because they aren't elite, but because they don't fit the algorithm's idea of what sells. A 2021 study by the Women's Sports Foundation found that women's sports receive just 4% of total sports media coverage, despite 84% of sports fans saying they want to see more of it. Another report from UEFA found that 94% of girls said seeing elite female athletes made them feel like anything is possible. This is what's at stake. Visibility isn't just a branding tool, it's a pipeline. It inspires the next generation. It shows girls that sport isn't just something they can watch, it's something they can own. In 2023, the Women's World Cup drew more than 2 billion viewers globally, with more women watching than ever before. The Lionesses' Euro win led to a 140% increase in grassroots football signups for girls in the UK. Interest, belief, participation, it's all rising. But here's the risk. If the industries now profiting off this growth, fashion, beauty, media, don't evolve with it, they'll simply repackage the same old pressures in new uniforms. They'll sell empowerment while feeding insecurity. They'll push athletic wear that prioritizes looks over movement. They'll place visibility in the hands of brands, not the athletes themselves. Because these industries don't just sell to women. They often sell the idea that women aren't enough unless they change, perform, or conform. So while the growth of women's sport is real, powerful, and long overdue, we can't let it be hijacked by the very forces that once kept it small. We're not just playing games, we're changing the game. Chloe Kelly took off her shirt and celebrated like no one was watching, except millions were. And they saw a new kind of strength. These aren't just viral moments, they're resistance, they're momentum, they're rewriting the rules. Because the future of women's sport doesn't belong to brands, federations, or filters. It belongs to the athletes, to the girls watching, to the voices getting louder, and to all the women, past, present, and future, who were told they weren't enough and proved otherwise.